so awesome at this bit. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Spiritual Waffle. Okay, we gotta say who we are, haven't we?
Yeah, you say
Okay.
I'm Sarah, I'm Jess. And
And
today
then-
we go into the, and I'll say, you'll say I'm Sarah, I'm Jess, and I'll say I'm Jess, and then I'll say, and today we're talking about yoga.
Yes.
But first, and then you
Okay.
can say, but first we're going to talk about what we've done this week. And
What
you
have
just-
I done?
Well, you could be, you say you've had half time with your children, that's spiritual.
It's totally spiritual.
Cool.
Okay. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Spiritual Waffle. She is Jess. Fucked if I know her surname. She just wandered in here off the street. Okay.
Try again.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Spiritual Waffle. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Jess, and today we're going to be talking about yoga.
But first, we're just going to have a little recap over anything spiritual that occurred to us this week.
Which we realise has not been much.
Not a lot.
Because you've had half term.
Yeah, not a great spiritual experience, that. Although actually keeping my cool in amongst the shit is as highly defined spirituality as I can get.
Yeah, great. I had a chat to my doula, who I think we should actually get on the show. She's called Helen. Do you know her?
No.
Helen.
Helen the doula.
Helen the doula. Yeah, she lives in Stokenchurch. I basically typed in spiritual doula because although I know there's really great doulas where I live, I really wanted somebody who had like that shamanic sort of drumming, wise woman energy, and I found her. Careful what you wish for, because I found her.
Get her on.
And I was discussing with her this week about having a blessing way, which apparently is where baby shower came from, this blessing way, but now it's just been completely bastardized into something where you smell a Snickers in a nappy to try and guess what chocolate bar it is, which I actually find so incredibly offensive. What a waste of a chocolate bar. No one's eating that chocolate bar afterwards. Have you played that game? Absolutely disgusting. It's so insulting. But yeah, so what I've been learning about is this blessing way or mother blessing. It's like this ancient practice of giving the mother like wishes, and you like meditate together and you can sit around a fire. I think there's lots of different ways you can do it depending on like where it's come from. And one of the main things is you wrap around like a cord, like a bit of not rope, string. Yes, thank you. And you all sit in a circle, and it's sort of like the mother and then all of her like sisters, and you wrap it around your wrist, and then you all wrap around your wrist, so you're all connected. You don't stay like that forever because that would be very difficult to just live your life. And then you cut it, and then you cut it off when I go into labour.
Oh,
That's sweet. And then you let people know you're all in like a WhatsApp group together. You let people know if you're going into labour, and like everyone could sort of put something on their altar or like do a little wish for you.
Oh, I love that.
Cute, right?
Love that.
So I've been learning about that, which has been really nice.
Yeah, that sounds
that for me.
much more spiritual
Than what you
in
did.
my
Yeah, apologies
experience.
for that. I've got that coming though, so don't feel bad.
It's okay. I think you're going to be blessed with a girl.
Okay, fantastic.
So today we're going to talk about yoga.
Ooh. Big topic.
Yes, indeed. Of which again you are the expert.
I wouldn't say expert, but sure, I know a bit about it.
Tell us, Jessica. Tell us.
What is yoga? Good question. So I'll start off with what I thought yoga was. I thought yoga was pretty much living parallel to Pilates, to be honest with you. I did my first yoga class when I moved to London when I was 18, and I did my first Pilates class. And to be honest with you, I couldn't really remember which one was which at the time. They seemed pretty similar from the teachers that I had, which just goes to show you how good the teacher was. But I thought that yoga was a bit more flowy and dancey, and Pilates was just a bit more like functional. Until I did a proper yoga class and I saw the other levels, the breathing, the meditation. And then it wasn't really until I went on my teacher training course that I learned that, without sounding like a wanker, yoga is a lifestyle. Like, it's not just about poses that you go and do for an hour in a studio every week. It's about the disciplines that you live your life by, like the moral codes, the moral guidelines, like non-judgment, kindness, all of this sort of stuff that you can learn during your practice. And it's really difficult, I think, sometimes because there's a lot to think about, especially those, if anyone's listening, been to my yoga class, there's a lot to think about because we're kind of here, there, and everywhere. The music's really loud. I do like a very vibey, I would describe it as a vibey vinyasa with me kind of shouting into my Britney mic, which I love. But there's a lot to think about, but also the practice of yoga is trying to switch off the mind and you're just in this flow state. What yoga means in Sanskrit is union. So it's the union of body, mind, and spirit or soul. So it kind of encompasses all of that. And poses is only one of those key elements, whereas I thought it was everything. I thought that's pretty much what it was, and that you just breathe alongside. My teacher got taught by her teacher, uh, Ashtanga and Vinyasa practice, and for the first 6 weeks they just breathed.
Wow.
And the teacher, it was in India, the teacher was like, we're not going to start doing the poses until we've got the breathing down, until we can consciously and mindfully breathe in this ujjayi, this ocean breath way, in order to then the next stage up is poses. It's not poses first and then yoga, but I don't think I'd get many people if I said it was a yoga class and then for the first 10 sessions was just sat down. I mean, that's breathing, that's breath, that's pranayama, it's a different thing. But yeah, so yoga is unison, union, and connects all of those things together. It can be a lot of things for a lot of people. When I first started, I certainly didn't think it was a spiritual practice. I knew it was. I knew it came from India, which did. I learned that it became, it's been around for about 5,000 years, but I've like reading a lot about it in my more recent years. It could have dated back like when time began. Like we have no, just because we don't have a record of it doesn't mean that it didn't exist back then. It's just been passed down. There's no one person. There's no like a Mr. Yoga or Mrs. Yoga. It's just been passed down from guru to teacher to student, just through the generations. And it's only when I really went back and learned about the philosophy of yoga and the root of it that I felt more like humbled doing the practice, because you get into like a triangle pose and you just need to take a minute to be like, people have done this for thousands of years, this exact pose that I'm doing. Like you can't really say that with a lot of other things. There's so many things that we do in our day-to-day life which are nowhere near what people used to do back then, like in tribes. Like it's like we're a different species. And what I love, I read a book which the name escapes me, about the history of yoga, and it said that around 5,000 years ago, when villages turned from villages to towns to then cities later on, there was a divide in humanity. Those that wanted to go with the progressive world and move into those spaces where there were, much later on, but like tall buildings, much more crammed in, not living and working with the land. And then those that retreated to the mountains, and a lot of them still are there, and they stay there and they live there now. But that's was one of the sort of influences for the yoga practice to continue, to make sure that they were still connected to nature. And there's no coincidence that every single pose is an animal, an insect, a tree, a plant. It's all reminding us of our true religion, which is nature. You can obviously have whatever other religion you are, but yeah, it's a beautiful practice.
Yeah. I remember hearing somebody describing it as yoga is actually a state of being.
Yeah.
So it's not the poses. They use the poses to enable them to be in a particular state of being.
Yeah.
And that's where it kind of then started to make sense to me a lot more as to where these came from, what their purpose was, which obviously coincides with breath work and meditation, and all of that is to just essentially access that higher consciousness.
Yeah, the yoga isn't the aim. The yoga, no, yoga is the aim as a lifestyle, as a being yoga. The poses are just one step on the way to enlightenment.
Yeah.
Truly like embodying everything that yoga is. Which can be difficult to sell to the regular sort of Joe who just wants to come along for a practice. And I think that whatever you go to yoga for, you're going to get out what you put in. And if you just want to come for the physical benefits, that's great. Yoga has so many benefits. And if one of your one of yours is the physicality of it and the strength and the flexibility, and then amazing. But there is also on offer to you so many other layers that you can tap into with regular practice and with like more of a deeper connection with all of the other limbs of yoga.
And talk to us a bit about those other benefits.
So, God, there's so many. I think that one of the main ones is bringing our stress levels down, like bringing our cortisol levels down, lowering our blood pressure. Obviously, the physicality, but improving flexibility and strength. And what I found with yoga helping me with injuries has been amazing. I remember when I first went to my very first hot yoga class in Brixton, which is like really where I found my love for it. I'd done a few yoga classes like at the gym and stuff and just hadn't really been convinced. And then went to hot yoga and was like, what is this? I need it up and in me everywhere. And this woman said to me she had a really bad skiing accident last year, and along with physio, yoga was the only other thing that she did, and it basically cured her. And even her physio was unbelievably impressed by the power of yoga, especially hot yoga. Although I do think there are some dangers with hot yoga in particular, because people can push themselves too far. So if you don't really get to know your body first, I think that can be a little bit dangerous with injuries wise. But if you've got a dodgy knee and you're doing physio to try and strengthen it, like what could be better than doing slow, mindful movements in a yoga format? So helping with injuries is amazing. Lowering blood pressure, helping with like the general flow of your whole system, really, like flushing out the bad, allowing the good to come in, creating space within the body. It can help with hormone balancing as well. There's loads of practices you can do when you're around depending on where you are on your menstrual cycle. Like you're advised really not to do inversions when you're bleeding, but there's other things you can do, like putting legs up the wall, which is great for lymphatic drainage. So those would be much more preferable than sort of standing on your head. And what I do love about yoga is that there are so many different practices that you can do depending on how you're feeling, where you are in your cycle, where you are in your life, what you need from it. It can be incredibly relaxing, or it can be really fiery and like energetic. All the other benefits are just, you'll know if you've done yoga, like that kind of afterglow where you just feel excellent, like your cells are buzzing. Your body loves you. Your body loves it and loves you. Your body loves you, but your body loves yoga. The caveat to that is if you don't listen to your body and you push yourself too far, then you can get into a bit of a pickle. But if you are really moving and working with your body as one, in unison, in union, then it can be an amazing practice. It's also, what I think about yoga is I'm not necessarily doing it for me now. I'm doing it for future Jess. Future Jess is going to really appreciate past Jess, that I've put in so much time and energy into my practice. Because I had a client the other day who, she said she had a ping pong injury. I think she like slipped. It sounded hilarious. I wish I was there. She slipped and she like caught her elbow on the ping pong table, but then went down like a sack of shit. And her physio and her craniosacral lady said, if you hadn't been so strong with your yoga practice, you would have broken your shoulder.
Wow.
Like no doubt in my mind. And two separate therapists said that. So you're in that respect, you don't know how much you're going to injure yourself in the future, but can you mitigate that by making sure your body is open, strong, flexible, durable now, so that when you're 100 and you go to tie your shoelace, your rib doesn't just pop out the side. But in actual fact, you've already done those movements. Like every single forward fold, you're basically being there for your future self when you want to tie your shoelaces or when you need to bend over to pick something up, because you've already done that 10 times that week or 10 times, all of those years ago. So longevity of the body and longevity of the mind. One of my favorite benefits of yoga is how calm it can make you feel, how connected it can make you feel, how it can bring you into the moment so deeply and stop you thinking about all of your worries. We were just discussing before we hit record, that world is moving too fast. Especially now, we're looking into the first parts of the summer. The world is spinning too fast for me. and I just want to press pause just for a minute, yoga can be that pause presser, and it can just allow you to stop and allow you to breathe. And if you are able to get that practice in now, I think we said on another episode, like, don't wait until shit hits the fan, because you're not going to be able to pick up a new practice then. That's the last thing on your mind. So if you can get your practice in now, like a regular weekly, every other day, like 15 minutes, some of like the calmest people I know just give themselves 10 to 15 minutes a day to do a few sun salutations, or if they're not really feeling sun salutations, they'll just lie on the ground with some nice music in butterfly pose or in shavasana and corpse pose. Those are the most, like, the calmest and the most well centered and aligned people that I know, that just give themselves, everybody has 15 minutes. If you just look at your phone usage, you probably spent 3.5 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. Can you take 15 minutes out of that and just do a yoga practice and just do something good for yourself in the moment, but also your future self?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put myself in that classification of the calmest or most aligned people.
No, me neither.
But
That's what I'm doing.
I do it for 15 minutes. Literally, I do one sun salutation and then a couple of other poses where I have like 10, sometimes 6 minutes in the morning. And I've been doing it for so long that I don't even think about it. Like, my body gets me out of bed
Yeah.
where my mind hasn't even woken up yet. And I feel now like I can't wake up. I can't actually interact with my kids or my husband until my body has done its yoga. And it just takes me outside before I've even had a chance to say, no, no, not today, body. It's like, no, this is what I want to do. And as soon as I finish, I feel like all of my cells are awake, and I actually cognitively awake as well. And I think one of the biggest benefits for me that you touched on is actually the present moment, and also like your relationship with your body. Like, we spend so much of our time in the Western world in our heads, and all the anxiety and the worry and the stress, it's all from our heads. There's this concept of, oh, drop into your body, into your body. That is easier said than done, because the brain is just so powerful and overrides all of that. Whereas I feel like yoga just overrides the brain and pulls you into your body in just a way that very few other practices can, to have that sort of instant relief from your brain, because the world is spinning at a fast rate, and that has this internal mind spinning off its track as well. So I'm a big fan. However, I don't even intend to know all there is to know about yoga. And one of the things that does confuse me is the very many different types of yoga there are. Can you talk us through all those different
Sure.
types?
I actually don't know how many there are. I should Google that. But there's more that are being created, like, as we speak, which is
Goat
great.
yoga.
Yeah. Goat yoga. Puppy yoga, for example. Still haven't got myself along to puppy yoga
Oh, you're missing out.
class. So the most, like, classical form of yoga is hatha. So that's been around since, I think, like, there's texts that have dated back to like the 1st or 2nd century, so like a long time ago. And then, so since then, quite a lot of the yogas that have come out of that, the different styles, have been foundationally based in hatha. Hatha's like the main one.
And what is it? What does it look like? What it's like?
It's normally done without any music.
Right.
You hold the poses for, a few different, for some breaths, like maybe
Okay.
3 to 5 breaths. It's what you would think if you think of like classical yoga. A bit like if you're in the dance world, classical ballet is like, it's no frills particularly. It's just like your straight up poses from one to the other. That doesn't necessarily, which is why I've never I've connected with hatha, but vinyasa has been my favorite, because there's just more fluidity to it. You're kind of here, there, everywhere. Everything just flows on one to the other. Whereas hatha is very much the poses, and there's a lot of strength in hatha. There's a lot of strength. The poses can be really challenging. And it's actually a really good place to start, I think. If you're like, oh my God, this world of yoga is massive, where do I start? Hatha's an excellent place, mainly because you know that that's the foundation of yoga. So you can go there and be like, right, what did I love about hatha, and what did, oh, great, if you love hatha, keep on doing it. But if there's things you want it slower, something like a yin or a restorative practice can be really good. Yin is excellent. It can be very challenging actually. And yin is the one where I never seem to give myself enough time to do a yin practice. I always feel like it's an absolute ag to like get my bolster and my blocks and make sure that Greg, my husband, is not on a call for the next hour. Like, and you really want an hour to practice minimum, but you're in the poses for anywhere between 3 and 15 minutes. So it's not about strength, it's about flexibility, which sounds like it would be great. But some of the poses you are in are super challenging, like pigeon pose, if you know what that is. You know, your knees forward, like out to the diagonal, your back leg is extended. I can be there for maybe 5 to 10 breaths, but for longer than that, tricky, really hard. And what you're getting is your body is reasonably still. Maybe you're using your breath to deepen into the posture, but it gives your mind a chance to be like, right, well, my body's still. Let's just start thinking about stuff. So it's actually more difficult, I find, in my experience, more difficult to quiet my mind in yin than in a hatha ashtanga vinyasa class where I'm distracted with my body and I can be really truly in my body. But I know, and I know some other people are like this, the practice that you are not finding the time for is probably the one you need to do the most. It's a bit like the pose that you freaking hate. The pose that you hate the most in yoga is the one that you need to do the most, annoyingly. The ones that you are like, love triangle pose, trikonasana. Oh, it's one of my favorites. And like half moon pose. It's so open, it's so big, it's so expansive. Those aren't really the poses I need to do. It's the other ones. It's the deep twist. It's the chair poses that are like in and down and reaching. Those are the poses I need to do more, but I don't do them as much because they just don't feel as nice in my body. But it doesn't mean that I don't need to do them. Ashtanga. Ashtanga and Vinyasa are the styles that I learn. The disciplines I learned. They've only been around for about 100 years, which not only, but I would think that I thought Vinyasa was much more recent, and I thought that Ashtanga was much more ancient. But it isn't. Ashtanga is different series. You have like primary, secondary, and advanced. I'm still only on primary series, may I just add, and I've been doing yoga for about 10 years. In order, what I quite like about Ashtanga is you do the series, and only until you've nailed every single one of those poses are you allowed to move on to the next one.
Wow.
So,
How many poses are there in those
oh, that's a good question. You could probably do it in an hour and a half. There's this thing called Mysore practice where you can go to a Mysore class and the teacher, the guide, the guru, doesn't say anything. They just kind of walk around and you just do the series one after the other.
That sounds like an easy gig.
It is, as a teacher, it's an easy gig. You're kind of there to help with any sort of modifications, any adjustments, any reminders. When we used to do it in India, we were allowed to have our little like cue card to remind us, but we were expected by the end of the month to know the full series, like just remembering it. But Mysore can be great. It's actually really powerful. There's no music. All you're hearing is people breathing. You're in every pose for about 5 breaths. And it gets progressively harder to like headstands, back bends. You're doing like crow pose, crane pose. You're doing all the greats right at the end. But by God, do you exhaust yourself up until that point because you're doing lots of like sun salutations and planks and, you know, sort of vinyasas in between the poses. So Ashtanga is great. I have to really build myself up for an Ashtanga class. I feel like it's just much easier for me to go to a Vinyasa one. And Vinyasa is breath with movement. What's great about Vinyasa is it can be a really slow, really soft practice. I've done vinyasas that are like barely even broken a sweat, and I'm quite a sweaty person. Or you can have the other end of the spectrum, which is kind of where I like to be, is sort of dynamic vinyasa, fiery, loud, just fun. Vinyasa to me is just funsies. It's just a fun time, and we like those who come to my class. We don't take it too seriously. And if you fall out, great, just get back on your mat and crack on. And we're in the teepee at the moment because it's summer, so the ground is really uneven because that's what the earth is like. And we're falling, everyone's falling all over the shops, and all the shops plural. And it's just great fun. And there's a likeness to Vinyasa that I like, but I also there's definitely and Hatha and Ashtanga to me are more serious. But I do think they're great. I feel more like I'm doing an ancient practice with those ones. There's like more reverence. There's more sort of there's a humbleness to it. Whereas Vinyasa is because I come from a dance background, it's very dancey. I quite often am doing a pose and I just say to everyone, I'm pretty sure this isn't a yoga pose, but it just felt good at the time when I was choreographing it. So yeah, I believe there's a yoga for everyone. And if you find a yoga that you love, a yoga style, maybe it's yin yoga, maybe it's vinyasa, if you can, make sure to put in your diary like a few of the other opposing to that to give yourself a bit of balance. I think that would be the perfect yoga schedule. And what I would advise to people is like, if you go to one yoga class and you don't like it, don't just write off yoga. I feel like it would be the same as if you turned on the TV and you watched a program you didn't like, you'd be like, I'm not watching TV again. Nobody ever does that. There's so many different styles and so many different ways of moving and breathing, and depends on the teacher and the location and the time and everything. There's so many different factors. So just keep on doing it, keep on trying until you find your one.
Yeah, I think that's really valid because the first couple of times I tried yoga, I was like, oh no, not for me at all. And then kept going and then find a teacher that I absolutely loved. And I was like, oh, I like her yoga. I didn't even know what it was called. But I was like, this girl, hers, just hers. But then I carried on doing it with my first pregnancy all the way up until I was like 8 months. And although she was an amazing teacher, I ended up getting like one-on-ones with her when I was pregnant. She had, I just think she wasn't that experienced in the knowledge of it, where she said, I said, how far through my pregnancy can I do this? It was vinyasa. And she was like, as long as you can do the pose, then you can carry on doing it. And during one of our classes at 8 months, I did the class and then just sat cross-legged at the end of it, and honestly felt like my entire hip fell out of its socket and out of my body. And I was in a really bad way. And it was only after that that we both decided to educate ourselves. And it's not about whether you can do the poses or not. It's about the fact that when you're pregnant, the elasticity in your body is massively increased. And so the poses that you may not have been able to do before, you could actually probably do more, but that just damages and injures your body. And so other than pregnant people, is there anybody else that should have, is there any dangers, anything people should be aware of?
Yeah, I think pushing yourself beyond the limits. Pregnancy is a really good example. That hormone relaxing, which is I'm experiencing quite now, which I'm already quite flexible anyway, but I am noticing that I can get much further down, which is so difficult for our ego because they're like, oh my God, look how far down I am. But you have to be like, no, no, that's not actually my muscles. It's not actually my tendons. I need to bring myself back. And I found that I've had quite a lot of really strong yogis who have come to my class and tried to do it pregnant, been okay, but have eventually just pulled themselves away, and they're just like, I'm going to come back postpartum, which I think is a much better idea actually now that I'm in the situation, because I don't want to do a strong practice. I want to do a fluid one. I want there to be pace to it, but I don't want to be like killing myself. I truly believe yoga is for everyone. I think even if I had a lovely lady who came to my class who was in a boot because I think she'd torn her Achilles muscle.
Wow.
And I think what lacks with people with injuries is just the confidence to come to class on crutches in a boot and be like, I'm just going to do what I can do. Like some of the classes sat down, so she was absolutely fine. You never would have known. The poses where we were standing up, she was doing the arms, or she'd get up on her knees. So I think yoga is for everyone. You can absolutely do it. You just have to adjust, and that is helped massively by your teacher. So if you have any injuries that have come up or any conditions, always speak to your teacher first and they can let you know if there's any modifications that you need to be doing. But yeah, it's great. It's great for the rehabilitation of injuries, for the rehabilitation of mental health. It's one of the best things I think you can do. If you're missing a limb, it's okay. You've got other ones, so come and do it. Yeah, the only thing to be mindful of is if you're pregnant or postpartum, because if you're like, your abdominals have stretched and that can be a bit tricky, but anything like that, a good qualified yoga teacher would be able to help with. And I don't see there being any downsides, because I remember when I went to one of my first yoga classes, it wasn't a hot yoga class, but the teacher said, if you check in with yourself, and if you need to lie down for the whole class, lie down for the whole class. I think I did that once actually, and it felt really nice.
You ask for your money back.
No, I've just had an hour's nap. Can I get my £12.50 back? But you just need to take from it what you need, and if that's more rest, That's great. What I observe in class often is students pushing themselves, taking it too far, injuring themselves at times, or exacerbating an injury because they are in the zone, in the flow, and comparing themselves to others. And they're like, oh, well, I can normally do that, or I want to get as far down as her or him. And that's when injuries get worse. And oh, hello, time's up. What can get in your way is your ego. And I see it so often, like we're in dragon pose, okay? So it's a deep lunge, your foot's out to the side, your hands are on the inside. And I say to people, I look at them dead in the eye and say, if you cannot put your inside forearm down, I don't want you to bring your forearms down, because you're just going to like stretch too much into your hip. It's going to be too much to your back. You're going to be looking around, being like, oh, she can go down, she can go down. Just stay with your palms on the ground, stay lifted. People still try and do it. I mean, God loves a trier, and that's fine, but just listen to your body. And I think what's important to remember is that yoga was never meant to be done in a class setting. It's not what it was made for. It was passed down one on one. Mysore and when they're done in big groups, that's sort of done for a reason, so you can like feel the energy of the group and stuff, but it is still a solo practice. You're meant to go inwards, we're not meant to be outwards. It's probably like the yogi ancestors are turning in their graves that we're making jokes and laughing and falling off, like, we've made it, hopefully I've made it very inclusive for people to come, whether they've got injuries or boots or whatever. But it is meant to be a solo practice, and I think everybody, if they were honest with themselves and did a practice by themselves, it would look quite different, because they'll be within their remit and they won't look at someone else and go. Sometimes other people can inspire you. I really remember a girl who was very svelte in my hot yoga class who did push me a little bit further to be like, oh, if she can do it, maybe I can. But there was a limit there, and I knew that there was poses that she could do that I just weren't even going to try yet because I wasn't there. And you just have to know, one of the lessons in yoga is just have patience, take time. What is annoying but what is brilliant is that it's called a practice, so you need to practice as much as you can, and it's not something you can complete like a course. You don't just complete yoga, tick it off the list. It's for life. So it may take you, like it took me a good 2 or 3 years to do a proper chaturanga because my arms just weren't strong enough. If you told me that when I walked to the yoga class, that one of the key moves I wasn't going to be able to do for 3 years, I'd be like, no, you're all right, I'll just stick to Pilates. But you just have to be okay with it taking time and putting in the work and putting in the effort. So I've forgotten what the question was, but that was the end of my answer.
And so you trained in Ashtanga and Vinyasa.
Yeah.
Tell us about your teacher training antics.
So my teacher training was in Goa in India, and I knew when I first went to India and I lived in Mumbai as a Bollywood dancer.
What?
That I know when I was 18. Yeah, I basically followed my best friend out there. She was like, I'm in India having a great time. I was like, well, it's November in London and this is hideous. Get me on the first plane out there.
Passing my lead bulb.
Yeah, exactly. I knew as soon as I went out to India that it was a really special place. It felt like a spiritual home. I hadn't really done much yoga at that point. I actually didn't really do any yoga when I was out there because we were dancing so hard. But I knew that if I was going to train to be a yoga teacher, because I found yoga just when I got back from that, it would be in India. I just wanted to train at the place where it originated from. I felt so deeply that that's where I wanted to be. So I knew that I was going to go back. We went back a few times, went back with Greg, went back with some friends, found this place in Goa. So I've been to Rishikesh before, which is more in the north, and that is an incredible place. Very, very spiritual. It's where the Beatles ashram is. If anyone is going to India, I would say do a stop off at there. You're sort of like, it's all centered around the bridge, and you're at the foot of the Ganges, and the houses and buildings look like a Wes Anderson movie, all brightly coloured, and there's monkeys on the bridge, and you get to swim in the waters, and it's so incredible. But I sort of selfishly, I don't know if it's selfish, I knew I wanted to be by the ocean, so Goa was the option for me. It was a place called Sampurna. It was a great place. It was very oversubscribed. There were 60 of us on the course, so they split us into 2 teams. But even 30 people over a month of intense training, there were some people in that group that I was like, have you been in my group the whole time? Like, absolutely no idea. But I met 3 really good friends on that course, 2 of which my yoga sisters, Molly and Emma, I now run the retreats in Northern Ireland called True Nature. And for that, I am eternally grateful. We besties and speak all the time, like literally every day we do voice notes to each other. But it was, I feel quite embarrassed to say that it was an Ashtanga and Vinyasa course. I'd never done Ashtanga before. And luckily, this is just a universal gift from the universe. Our plane, something happened with our plane. It got delayed and then it got cancelled, but then it got back on, and I didn't manage to get on it in time. So I was a day late with a couple of other girls. So we missed the first Ashtanga class where our teacher, Jenna, said, "Put up your hand if you've done Ashtanga." Everyone put up their hand. I would have put up my hand. I'm not blaming anyone. And then she went, "Right, do it then." And she did a Mysore practice, as in she didn't tell anyone what to do. Apparently, everybody was just copying this one girl at the front who knew what she was doing. Honestly, that would have shit me up, and that would have, yeah, that would have frightened the hell out of me, because the practice isn't 20 minutes. You're given a 2-hour slot for this practice. It's grueling, and if you've never done the poses before, you're trying to learn from a woman like 3 rows away. Try not to look at. Honestly, I'm so glad I wasn't there. And then as soon as I got on the second date, Jenna, the teacher, had like obviously softened and realised that a lot of the people on the course were like me and said we'd done Ashtanga, but kind of assumed, I thought maybe I'd done it and I just hadn't known. If you think you haven't done, if you think you've done Ashtanga, you haven't. You know if you've done Ashtanga. It's that kind of practice. So the first day was a bit of a whirlwind. Turned up late. I was with my friend Emma, who I just met that day, and it's tough. It's the hardest, considering I went to dance school for 3 years and that was physically challenging. This was probably on a par, if not a little bit harder. We were in little like huts right by the beach. We all ate together. We all did class together. We had to walk up like literally 150 steps into up a mountain, like in the Shala in the studio. It was all open. It was really hot. It was like February, March time. And this was actually just before COVID, like just before the borders closed. So the whole time COVID was kicking off, I had absolutely no idea. I had my other two really good friends, my bestie Hols, who was running the dance company that I'm still director of. They were just in absolute turmoil because COVID was shutting down schools and cancelling everything. I was blissfully unaware at my pool's like oceanside apartment doing my yoga practice. We didn't have TV. The Wi-Fi was so patchy. I didn't read the news, so I had no idea that shit was really truly hitting the fan, which I actually think was a good thing. Like, it would have been stressful. Good for me, not good for everyone else. Um, every morning we had an hour of meditation. We did an hour's Ashtanga or 2-hour Ashtanga or Vinyasa practice, and then an hour of chanting. And the whole time, this was the hardest thing for me, as you can imagine. I'm about to say, you had to do it in silence, apart from chanting, of course. That would be difficult. But you woke up at 5:45, like before the sun came up. You would have to walk up those 150 stairs, walking past people that you knew, that you'd met. No jokes, nothing. You just go, you walk in there, you'd sit down, and you just get ready for your practice. And you'd have maybe 4 hours of practice before there was like a little gap in between where you could grab a little biscuit and like half a banana and a chai tea, and you kind of whisper to your friends, and then you have to go back in and continue. And it was only until breakfast, which was at like 10:30, that you would be able to talk, and you'd be like, "Oh my god, thank god I can talk now. What the hell was that flow?" or whatever. So that I found really difficult. But actually, as time went on, feeling like I always just thought that like fun equals happy, loud jokes, yay, and boring equals silence, no talking, straight faces. But actually, what I learned was that sort of sitting or being in a ceremony setting, or about to be doing a ritual or an ancient practice, there's like this importance that you need to be silent, and you need to appreciate the practice. You need to appreciate and give yourself a minute to just stop talking, like shut up, stop talking, and just think about what you're about to do and be really in your body and in the moment. So actually, after a while, I found it really easy. I never thought I'd find it easy to not speak, but I kind of enjoyed it. You were just sort of with your thoughts, and in the morning, because you're so used to doing yoga all the time and meditating and eating really clean food and swimming in the ocean, you didn't have a huge amount of thoughts about other things, about except for what you were about to do and the practice you were about to undergo. And then after that, after sort of breakfast, we'd have like a philosophy class or anatomy class or a science lesson. But this is all in the Shala. And by this point, it was maybe like 38 degrees with a fan, like no AC, of course. And you're just learning about like the skeletal system and the muscular system. And honestly, the amount of times I accidentally fell asleep in my hand because it's just so warm. So warm. I remember that feeling from school being like, don't fall asleep, don't fall asleep. Oh, but it feels so nice to have my eyes closed. That was the hardest part for me, like in that school setting, like learning, trying to learn the names of things and learning where this joint connects up to this joint. And you really have to know your shit. Like you have to know in every pose, not only what muscles are being activated, what muscles you're stretching, how your what the alignment of the pelvis is compared to the shoulders and the arms, but also what if somebody comes in with an injury and they say, oh, well, I've got sciatic pain, or they've got, they tore their ACL last year. Like, how are you going to then, in your brain, super quickly go, right, well, this pose, this pose, this pose are not going to be great for you. I want you to take it super easy. These are the adjustments that I might do on you, but the modifications are this on every single pose. So you have to really deeply ingrain your knowledge on skeletal system, the muscular system, to be able to know that. Also, the philosophy was really interesting as well, learning all about like the ancient texts, the Vedas and Patanjali and all of these incredible teachers. um, I found really, really interesting. But it was, yeah, it was hardcore. It was every day. Maybe you have one day, I think it was the Sunday, where we had a day off. And we'd all, me and the girls would just go to the closest cocktail bar to have some. We at the beginning we were like, no, we're going to be sober. We're going to be, respect the body. The body is a temple. And then after the second, we were like, fuck that shit. Get me a sex on the beach. We just need, she needs to loosen up a bit.
Yeah.
Just go a bit crazy. But yeah, it was hardcore. If anyone's thinking about it, I would say 100% do it. There's loads of people that I know that have done the course and then not gone on to teaching. But like, by God, does it deepen your knowledge of yoga and make you respect the practice, and learn a lot about myself as well, and my weaknesses and my strengths and what kind of teacher I wanted to be. And yeah, 10 out of 10, I would say.
Sounds mega. And also I think it is really important, all of that anatomy and information, because I actually feel like it's really easy to injure yourself in yoga. And you talked about the ego, etc., which probably most definitely plays a part in those injuries, where you push yourself that little bit more. But also it means that the teacher's really important, because if they're just kind of blanket moves, it's really easy to do that move not in the correct alignment, which can mean your joints are really heavily pressured and a lot of pain and injury can result from that. So I'm glad that you have to learn that shit.
Yeah.
And I just wish more of you.
I know. It's difficult to remember as well. I find I keep having to sort of dip back, and if someone comes to me and says, "Oh, had a lovely lady who said she's got a dowager's hump," and I was like, "What in the fucking world is that?" It's sort of like, yeah, it's like a hump at the top of the back, but it means that she's really restricted. So it's a reminder as well that no, teacher is kind of the wrong word. I prefer, in the breathwork space, it's breathwork facilitator. Like I'm helping facilitate the breathwork. Teacher implies that there's not really a step above that, maybe guru, but that we know everything, and we don't. And I thought there was a preconceived idea that you would have to do all of the poses. There are tons of poses I can't do that I'm still working on, not currently, but I will be still working on, that I need teachers' help on, because I don't fully understand in my body how that alignment feels. But there's, yeah, most great teachers will, if there's an injury or there's somebody comes with something and they've signed up online, if they said I've got this injury or I've got this ailment, then the teacher will go and research it, because we can't know everything. It's like impossible to keep all that information in our brain, but the common ailments we will likely be able to help with adjustments and modifications and stuff.
Awesome. So do you want to tell everybody about when you run your classes?
Oh,
I'm
I'd
sure
absolutely
everybody
love
wants to get their
to.
steps down.
So I run my classes on Tuesday evenings at 7:30 and Wednesday mornings at 9:30, both an hour, both at Lokemead Farm in Long Crendon. In the summer in the teepee, and in the autumn and winter in the barn, which is super cozy. But I also run private classes as well that can be done at your house, mine, or the teepee in the summer.
And you also do sunglasses with a little bit of rosé.
Oh, yes. Well remembered. Are you coming to those?
I mean, yes, please.
Yeah, sign up. Yeah, we've got 2 dates for all of my favorite things: yoga, DJ, sunset, rosé.
Fuck yeah.
I can't remember the date. It's something like there's one in July, and there's like the 18th
Yeah,
of
the 18th,
July
yeah.
and the 13th of August. And they were completely sold out last year really quickly. We're almost sold out of the July one this year. But they're so much fun. Live scratch DJ, this lovely girl called Ellie who comes, she's at university at the moment, but she comes back, and like her dad, Patrick Jewell, who we also have DJing like our feasts and some of our gig nights, she's a scratch DJ, so it's just vinyl. And she's got such an eclectic taste, and I basically just say to her, like, this is the kind of flow I need, and the peaks and the troughs, and this is the kind of vibe. And we both really like Afrobeat and kind of funk and soul, and then I just sort of hand it over to her, so I get to hear it, but roughly for the first time when the event comes around. But it's really fun. Do really fun yoga, super inclusive, and then a bit of a boogie, and then we have rosé as the sun goes down.
Lush.
Luscious.
I mean, you've really combined all of the best
I
parts
know.
of
You're welcome.
the East and West there.
Yeah.
Phil. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jess. That was epic. I feel like I am well more informed as to what all that yoga biz is.
You're welcome.
So if anyone fancies having a go, having a try, get yourself down to Jess's classes. You can find all the details on the By Firelight website.
And rogueyoga.co.uk, but we'll pop that in the show notes.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.